Every leader faces setbacks, failed projects, missed opportunities, or unexpected challenges. But the greatest leaders, they don't stay down. They turn those setbacks into springboards. And today on Transformation Station, we're exploring how great leaders bounce back stronger and how you can too. Let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome to Transformation Station, where we talk about real growth, real challenges, and the lessons that turn obstacles into opportunities. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and in this episode, we're diving into resilience, not as a nice idea, but as a skill every leader must develop. Because let's face it, setbacks are guaranteed. What's not guaranteed is whether you'll get stuck in them or whether you will grow through them. Well, today, I'm so excited. And I mean this like for real, for real. We have an amazing guest, very experienced leader. His name is Desmond Des Walker. He is a commander in the United States Navy and has honorably served for over 29 years. A native of Hollandale, Mississippi, he entered the Navy in 1996 as an electronics technician. Commanding officer of USS Stout, a Flight 1 guided missile destroyer, completing the historic deployment to the U.S. 5th, 6th Fleet areas of operations and earning the Battle Effectiveness Award, Retention Excellence Award, and Combat Action Ribbon. He has authored several articles in the U.S. Naval Institution's Proceedings magazine and earned several awards for mentorship, leadership, community service, and career achievement. Transformation Station, help me welcome Desmond Walker to Transformation Station community. Welcome today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Listen, Des, let's start this way. I often think of a time where I personally, as a leader, hit a wall. Those of us who are listening and watching as leaders, we all have had personal setbacks. Some of us have experienced personal and professional failures, or a season where nothing went the way we planned. And I try now, after over 2 decades myself in leadership, I try to often ask myself, what did that experience teach me? I want to start off by asking you this question. When you think back on your leadership journey, what's one major setback that became a turning point for you?
I would say first, during my first division officer tour as a surface warfare officer in the United States Navy, with the specialty for nuclear training. I hadn't got to the nuclear part yet,
Mhm, mhm,
but it's during my first division officer tour where I had to work through my officer of the deck and surface warfare officer qualifications. Um, I had to do the OD qual. I had to have 3 boards for that process, and then I'd have 2 surface warfare boards as
mhm,
well before I finally earned that warfare designation. And I say that was the first time I was really challenged because I had grown up with, work ethic was already there.
mhm,
Did very well as an individual in enlisted ranks, but that was a turning point for me because during that, especially during the officer to deck process, when I got to the third OD board, I actually had a one-on-one conversation with my commanding officer at the time. And what he told me was stop looking at the other people's journey. He was a
mm,
nuclear trained officer. He was a senior officer in this surface nuclear community.
mhm.
And his message to me was, I know what's coming next for you. So yes, the bar is going to be higher for you. And I want to make sure that you're ready, not just for this, but what's to come.
I love when
And that was so profound. And I'm always grateful that he took that time to let me grow to where he wanted me instead of writing me off. I'd say that was probably the biggest a very defining moment for me.
Mm, I love that. Sometimes when we come into leadership, we have this perception that we have to do it all, be all, and know all, which is so
Right.
far from the truth.
Right.
And he told you, hey, I know what's coming. I know what's coming
Yep.
ahead. And trust me to guide you through this process to prepare you for where you're
Hmm.
going. That's outstanding. And another
Right.
major setback that I've seen from time to time with leaders is resistance from the team in terms of believing that there has to be an instant buy-in
Right.
whenever put forth an idea or we put forth and give direction. And I've learned that leadership is earned over time, not granted
Sure.
just because I'm in charge, right? I
Hmm.
may be
Hmm.
positionally in charge, but that trust, it's earned over time. Another one that I've seen is sometimes making mistakes and perceiving that because we've made a mistake in our decision making, made a mistake, that somehow that then takes us back or makes us
Right.
unworthy of being able to lead. Now, you have the opportunity to supervise young leaders. What have you seen from new leaders from time to time?
Um, that's a very interesting question. So, and I did spend some time on that. Once I got to my command tour, I kind of did a kind of human assessment because I had an MBA with a human emphasis in human resource management.
Hmm.
So I brought some of that knowledge to bear, and I said, hey, you know what? My command is about 300 people, and I have about four different generations on board. Five, if you depending on how young they are, from 18 to
Yeah.
almost 50 at one point in time, myself included.
Hmm.
And so I recognized very, very quickly that I had to make sure that I spoke in terms that that generation would
Hmm.
appreciate, right? And so talking to an 18-year-old is different than talking to a 38-year-old. It
Hmm.
and also then when you dive into it, there's difference between talking to a single sailor, regardless of age, and someone that has kids,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so as I developed an appreciation for the various backgrounds within the command, it allowed me to really speak truth to them in a way that would resonate to maximize their contribution to our success.
Mm, I love that. So, here in Transformation Station, we always give our listeners and viewers an opportunity to stop for a moment, pause, and reflect. And so, to our viewers and our listeners, I want to invite you, as Des is talking to us, to reflect on this principle right here. It says setbacks in early leadership aren't signs that you're unfit. They're the training ground that shapes you into someone worth following. And Des has just given us actual examples of that principle. And a lesson that we can draw from that is that mistakes don't disqualify you, they actually develop you. And here we are literally talking to a living example of what it looks like to allow the process to develop you over time. So, with that said, Des, I want to ask you this question. Mindset shift, right? You kind of
Mhm.
started talking about it a few minutes ago, but what mindset shift have you seen that helps leaders see challenges as opportunities instead of dead ends? Talk to
Mm.
us.
Yeah. Well, time is probably the biggest contributing factor. One of the things that I learned over the years that I added to my leadership toolbox was it takes a year to get a year of experience,
Mm,
right? And so whether you are the 12-year chief petty officer, or you're the um 6-month division officer, or
mhm,
if you're like myself, the 29-year commanding officer, um your your experiences are cumulative,
mm,
and it's important when you are able to see the challenges, opportunities, when you come to the realization that it's okay to try and fail. Something has to happen where you get knocked down
Mm.
and you get back up.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
at a certain point, you recognize that the getting knocked down and getting back up is a part of the journey. Because some people
Mm.
don't want to get knocked down,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And for fear of for sense of failure, if I can't do this and I can't do anything, and with mentorship, with having a network, a support group, like I say, a village, having someone that can uh, contextualize what you're going through or relate to you, um, can be helpful in doing that. But at a certain point, you as an individual, that personal accountability piece always gets 51% of the vote. At a certain point, you have to have that mindset shift. But over to you on what that catalyst is. And sometimes the catalyst doesn't have to be failure. Sometimes it can be I
True.
earned that master's degree. I
Mhm.
earned that doctorate degree. I
Mhm.
survived that. I can survive anything. And
Mm.
so it depends. That's where it comes. That the person has to come to a realization, kind of like a fight or flight kind of thing, if you want to use that analogy as well. I think whenever that happens for them, when it happens, whenever it happens, it's right on time.
I love that. So, we're talking today about from obstacle to opportunity. And what I hear you say is, when obstacles come, it doesn't always have to be negative, right? It's a situation, it's a
Right.
circumstance
Right.
that can lead us to. I was reflecting before we started this to myself and just thinking over the years, what were some of the things that I would deem to be obstacle. And to be quite honest,
Hmm.
many of those obstacles, like I would get to a duty station and it's crazy.
Yep.
Absolutely crazy. And my first mind is saying, like, oh my goodness, why in the world? But and then you stop and you realize that by the time you get to the end of of that time serving that billet, you looking back and you like, oh,
Yep.
that obstacle actually propelled me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I got this in the tour only because that obstacle we journeyed
Hmm.
through, we
Yep.
accomplished because of those said circumstances. And so, leaders, we're asking ourselves today, the obstacles that we are facing right now, how can we reframe it from being an obstacle that will destroy us, that will delay us or derail us, to being an obstacle that provides opportunity to move forward?
And if I can share one other thing is this, I've had to learn. I learned early on. So in your Navy career path, and you understand this as a chaplain as well. There is experiences that they want you to get from '01 to '06. Is
Yes.
no two journeys are the exact same, because one person will go to chaplain school, another person will go to a base. But there are some things that they want you to do that keeps you kind of on the assembly line.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, from my first department head tour all the way to my command tour, I didn't have the first job I put in for.
I see.
Every single time I got orders, and then I got a phone call and the orders changed. First tour department head, second tour department head,
I
post
see.
department head one shore duty, post department head two shore duty, post department head three shore duty, post department head four shore duty.
I see.
XO and CO, all of those were, I had something and then circumstances changed it. But you know
Right.
what I did? I bloomed where I was planted, turned every obstacle into opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those of us who are listening and watching right now, how can you today recommit? Because I know you're already doing it. Recommit to blooming where you are right now. And I know that that means something different for everyone. There are some who are facing some really grave situations where you're multitasking, multiple roles, or maybe the position that you're in at this moment is a little bit beyond your skill set, but still, how can you double back, double down, and reframe that from being a problem to journeying through the process? And I want to go back to one more thing, Des. I mentioned earlier about talking about the leader who wants to always be in control.
Mhm.
And I want to invite the leader who feels this desperate pressure right now that you have to have all the answers. You have to be in control of the situation and the whole team and manage everybody's schedule to step back and to move from a mindset of I have to control everything to contribution. Ask yourself, how can I contribute my best attitude, my best effort, my best faith to my team? Because I found over the years, Des, that as a leader, our teams model our behavior and our
Absolutely.
mindset. I think it's so crazy for us to walk in with a certain mindset and then expect that our team will do something greater. No, they model us. I don't know if you've ever had a situation, but I can clearly see some days if I walk into the office and I don't say good morning and I just go
Yeah.
straight to my office and I close my door, it's like the air in the office begins to change. You know, everybody's like, "Oh,
Yep.
this is not gonna be a good day." But if I walk
Yep.
in, good morning, how's everybody doing? It's like the office lightens up, and it's almost like people
Mhm.
feel free now to just
Absolutely.
be.
For sure.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this question: in the moment of a setback, where it's easy to feel stuck, from your experience, what practical steps can leaders take right away to regain perspective?
Yeah. It's kind of in two parts. I say the first part, leadership has an implied task of crisis management. And
Mm,
if you don't want to kind of like something happens to your home and you lose everything, and the first number that you have to call is like the Salvation Army,
mhm,
just to get food, clothing, and water kind of thing, or the American Red Cross. that's
mhm,
that's a part for the leader. You have to come into it expecting new people to bring you their problems,
mm.
and you develop solutions. If you're not ready to receive people's problems, then you're not ready to be a leader.
Say that again.
um,
Mm,
if you're not ready to receive people's problems, you're
mm,
not ready to be a leader. That was
mm,
off the dome.
mm. That's a word right there. Hashtag not ready.
Dropping
Hashtag
bars, dropping
mercy.
bars.
Seriously. Woo!
um, but then that's on the kind of the reactive side. From a proactive side,
Mhm,
leadership means preparing for those moments.
mhm,
And so, what is your battle rhythm for your wellness?
mm,
Um, the when do you close the door to take care of yourself? When
mm,
do you show up to work a little bit late because you're going to go to the gym first? Or when do
mm,
you leave work a little bit early because you want to go take your family out to dinner?
mm,
um you have to plan those things, prepare those things as best you can. And even the best laid plans sometimes fail, but I
mhm,
think the putting in the effort um sets a tone, because it goes back to what you said about what do your followers see. And then
mhm,
what do your subordinate leaders see? You're the typical, the CEO never goes home, so nobody goes home kind of thing. Well, I'm
mhm,
not leaving because the CEO still here was, and I had to be very vocal with my team. I was like, hey, I'm here because I got something I need to do. You
mhm,
go home if you need, if your stuff is done, you go home.
mhm,
Now, but man, you accept the risk of me needing something, but
mhm,
back over to you to posture your part of the team to be able to respond if I come with something urgent, because I also owe you deadlines, I owe you tasking, I owe you priorities.
mhm.
You owe me your creativity and your willingness to see the mission succeed by putting lower level things in place. So it's a nice relationship from mission accomplishment perspective.
So what you just shared, for those of us who are leaders and we supervise, we manage, we journey with teams, you just shared something that's really important. You know, Des, right now I can honestly say there are people that I can count on one hand that I know leaders who have you ever heard of the book The Body Keeps the Score?
Mm-mm. No,
Phenomenal,
sounds good.
phenomenal book, right? And
No.
one of the premises pretty much is that as we are journeying through life and we encounter, different obstacles,
Hmm.
our body keeps a record of what
Yeah.
we are going through. We, on our own initiative, we try to just move forward, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, it happened. Let me get back to put my uniform on, get back to work tomorrow. And we just journey through. However, our body
Yeah.
says, oh, you know, panic attack. Oh, all these things happen, right? And then at some point the score gets really high, and
Hmm.
then our body says enough, like we got to lower the score. And so I correct myself. So then that's when we start having our shoulders that are aching and our leg is aching and we're having headaches and all these different things. And recently I have seen several of my fellow leaders, it's like the body is reacting now and saying, enough. You've been running, running, running for 10 years, 12 years, almost 17 years. You have not
Right.
stopped, have not paused. Enough. And I'm seeing them drop, whether it's heart attacks, strokes, all these different things. And what you said just now is so key, right? Going back to how those we lead model what we do. Leaders, we need to, as Des said, when do we leave work early to take care of our family? When do we prioritize going to the gym? Not
Yep.
because we have to take a test, but because we know it's good for our mental health, our physical health.
Right.
When do we? And then when do we invite our team? And I love what you said. You said to them, you take the risk in terms of make sure you posture your department, you posture things so that the work still continues, but you take a break
Absolutely.
before you break.
Absolutely.
Hmm. I think
Because
that's so.
there are gonna be times when I'm gonna need you.
Mhm.
Right. And so you bake that in by when you can take those moments, take those pauses, you take
Mm,
them. And then over time, those small pauses,
mhm,
I look at those small pauses like active recovery. If you do high intensity interval training,
mhm,
the old Sean T workouts, the your active recovery, you're still doing jumping jacks or you're running in place or something like that as a pause, but the heart rate just going from really, really high to kind of
mhm,
just high,
mhm,
but you're maintaining an overall high uh, heart rate for an extended period of time. Your approach to work is the same way when you're trying to be highly effective. And so what's your version of active recoveries when when conceptually you're on it all the time, especially when
mm.
you deploy. The deployment status is a really good example of that.
I love that. I love that. And those of us who are watching, as you're watching and you're listening right now, I want to invite you in the comments, respond. Give us some feedback on what you're hearing. Let us know what resonates with you. Several things that I thought about, Des, as we were talking about how can we practically regain perspective right now is, pause before you react. I find that there's a lot of things that are solved and resolved when I pause, as opposed to reacting
Yeah.
to something.
Yeah. Not
Ask
pretend.
those thoughtful questions seriously, because clarity, space, not speed, right? And then I
Yeah.
find also we got to name what's true. So many
Facts.
times we are moving off of feelings, right? As opposed to moving, like you said, off of facts. When we stop and we name what's true, what's actually happening right here, we find
Mhm.
that truth is the anchor that breaks the spin cycle, right? And then
Absolutely.
three, shift from stuck to step, right?
Mm.
We have to ask ourselves, what's the next right step that I can take? The
Yeah.
next step, not the whole step, just the next one, right?
Hmm.
I don't have to answer the phone right now, but I will answer it and give
Yeah.
myself that time frame from when I will do it, right? Because we know our setbacks don't define us. They help us to be able to move forward.
Right.
So, Des, how can leaders, because I know that there are leaders that are listening and watching right now. How can we as leaders model resilience for our teams without pretending that setbacks don't hurt or that that they're not an impact when setbacks happen?
Yeah. Just being authentic, being vulnerable, as much as you can, um, which is tied to what's your mission and your vision and your purpose and what are you trying to drive the organization to, you um you have to lead the team somewhere. You can't just be reactive to what your purpose is. You have to kind of drive your purpose, kind of like a faith and works kind of approach to it.
Mm,
Um, and with that paradigm, then being vulnerable and authentic when you're having those tough times. I remember one time I was in a maintenance meeting, and I'm the chair of the maintenance meeting with my maintenance team,
mhm,
and mix of officers, or mix of my ship leadership and the civilian leadership for the maintenance availability. And I got an update on something, and it pissed me off. And I kind of I yelled at everybody in the room because from a personal accountability perspective, when they gave me the report,
mhm,
I lashed out in anger because of the lost opportunity for
mm,
me to affect that thing,
mm,
right?
yes. Mhm,
But after I did that, I paused for about 10 seconds,
mm,
and then I said, "Hey, I apologize to the whole room. That's not my normal reaction. I am frustrated that no one brought that to my attention, and I missed 2 weeks of an opportunity to solve that problem before it became a big problem."
mm,
And to me, I was just trying to maintain a level of decorum and respect in the room overall. But
mhm,
then after that meeting, one of my interns came to my cabinet and said, "Sir, I've never seen a CO or a senior officer do that before."
mhm,
And he said it totally changed his perspective on
mm,
how to approach leading. And so uh
yes.
yeah, it takes those moments to build that trust that you're talking about.
Mhm, mhm. No, that I think that's a powerful example right there. Many of us can relate to it, and it also challenges us as
Yeah.
leaders to really move in that step. And I love the fact that you took the time to model that, to have that transparent conversation, right? To share the why behind the reaction, and you had one of those who you were leading come and say, "Man," and I'm quite sure that that moment was a defining moment for that officer,
Yeah.
to be able
Mhm.
to have a model, an example, and to be able to move forward in their own leadership with that. That is really powerful. And it brings me to also think that, resilient leaders, we have the ability to move our teams from reaction to response.
Yeah.
And to all of us who are listening right now, yesterday was yesterday. We're talking about today. How can we enhance our leadership today? How can we be the leader that we know we can be? As resilient leaders, we have the opportunity, the ability to move our teams from reaction to response. It's an intentional one. So, Des, as we get ready to turn the corner here,
Mhm.
I want to ask you this question. What advice would you give to the leaders that are listening and watching right now, to all of us who want to transform today's setbacks into tomorrow's momentums? What advice would you give us?
Um, First, I say it all the time, keep grinding. Um, there is something to be said about um putting your money where your mouth is, you
Mm,
know,
mhm,
and that's the simplest form of leadership is leading by example,
mm,
right? And for my 29 years naval service, that's one of the advantages that I had over officers that don't have any prior leadership experience. I can pull to the left what my decision impact will be on the junior sailor because I know what the junior sailor thinks.
mm,
even
mm,
though even though I'm outdated, I joined the Navy in 1996. I
mhm,
still can empathize with what the junior sailor is going through. I know what it's like to be an E4. Your pay is not the best, but you have a wife and a child. and you're just trying to figure out how to make ends meet, but you
Mhm.
still got to stand duty, or you still have to deploy, you still have to come in early for training, or you have to stay late to get some maintenance, some emergent maintenance done. And so um, that's kind of where I'm at. Is if you know where you've been, you can figure out. I'm sorry, I'm messing that up. If you know where you have been, you can know where you're going,
Mhm. Mhm.
kind of thing. And so that is taking moments to reflect. But like I like the way you said about not yesterday, but today. The same
Exactly.
thing. That's how you do it. You still keep you're driving the car, you got the
Yes.
rear view mirror. Every once in a while you check the rear view mirror. So
Yeah.
check the rear view mirror
Mhm.
on your professional and or personal progression,
Mhm.
because that allows you time to reflect and give yourself feedback and contextualize what you see in the rearview mirror.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Check the rear view mirror. Take the time to analyze, take the time to reflect with no judgment. I think,
Right.
sometimes we just got to ask ourselves honest questions and have honest answers with no judgment. I've tried to
Hmm.
remind myself when I'm asking myself assessment questions, like remove the stinking thinking. There's always going to be something that will try to cause you to feel like I can't do it, or this is too much, or why did that
Yeah.
happen, or what. Cancel all of that and just deal with the straight. What is true? What is
Right.
true? I have a mind that can think. I'm blessed with intelligence. I have health. I'm in the position, right? I met the requirements. Let's go.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
I have to remind myself at times that it takes courage to get back up,
It
but
does.
we all have that within us. And I dare say around us, we have community. We have those sometimes who may be quiet, but those who are supporting us, right? We have to at times take time to reach out and to see the resilience, the help that is right around us. One final,
Yeah.
I want to ask you to do this for us. And I'm going to pull myself off screen just for a moment. Talk to the leader right now that is watching and listening. What would you say to them from your experiences and from your heart about turning setbacks into opportunities?
Turning setbacks into okay. So turning setbacks into opportunities becomes a lifestyle, I believe. I referenced earlier, keep grinding. I said it a lot, but for me, it's a lifestyle. The successes and failures are just a part of your life. And so as you're climbing up that mountain, you're going to get to a mountaintop, but you don't stop at the mountaintop. You keep going. You got to come down the other side of that mountain. The opposite of that mountain is a valley. There's going to be another valley you got to go into, but then you're going to get to that valley. That's the lowest it's going to be. But now you got to come back up again. And now you're now challenging the next mountain. And so keep grinding is the perpetual mindset of success. Suc- Failure is a part of success. No
Mm,
different than death is a part of living.
mhm.
You born, you live, and you die. And so, with the one life that you have, what are you doing with it? You know,
Mm.
that's what I would say.
I love that. I love that. This has been so rich. There are so many gems and nuggets that you have provided for us. And I want to invite all of us who are listening and watching to go back on the replay. But more than that, Des, if there is someone that wants to reach out to you to learn more about your journey, to, share with you what they've gleaned from this episode, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of motivational stuff there and achievements and things and encouragement stuff like that. So I'm always reachable there.
Fantastic. So, Transformation Station community, you see it on the screen. The link will also be in the description box. As always, we invite you to reach out to our guest speaker. So send Des a note, let him know that you saw this episode, ask him some leadership questions, tap into the rich wisdom that he has, and also his podcast and the things that he's doing. Follow him, subscribe, share, and let's continue to build a strong leadership community. Des, this has been amazing. I thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation. It was really good.
Thanks so much. All right. Well, there you have it. Listen, here's your Transformation Station challenge for this week. Take one setback from your life, past or present, and write down 3 lessons it taught you. Then ask, how can I use what I've learned to help someone else? I'd love to hear from you. Share your reflections in the comments. Tag us on social media, or use the hashtag Transformation Station Podcast so we can celebrate your growth together. And if this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend who might need a reminder that their setback is not the end. Until next time, keep growing, keep leading, and keep turning your setbacks into stepping stones.